Having his primary school education in the rural area of Oyo State in Nigeria, West Africa, 10-year-old Tunji is like finding water in a very hot desert. It is hard to imagine a brilliant boy like him being found in such a local place where there are too many superstitions and beliefs. And because of his exceptional talent, the state government became interested in his educational well-being and was supported by the community's traditional ruler and chiefs. But Tunji's uncle, a very tough, fearsome, and powerful hunter in the community, called Ibora, would not hear of it. Because, according to him, the oracle had prophesied that Tunji was destined to be the greatest achiever in their community. He then forcefully took Tunji to the forbidden forest for initiations. This situation brought about the biggest tribal civil crisis that began in Tunji's local community, reached the presidential villa in the nation's capital city of Abuja, and even went as far as the city of Liverpool in England. At the center of all these commotions, what happened to Tunji's promising educational career? Was the prophecy of the oracle, that he was a special child who was predicted to achieve unusual exploits in their community, just a myth, or was there some truth in it? What if the oracle is right? Tells us what eventually took place. Akingbile Primary School Omiali is a public primary school, situated in a village about 70 kilometers north of Ibadan, the capital city of Oyo State. Most primary schools in Nigeria, especially in the western part of the country, distribute pupils to arms of classes based on their brilliance. Akingbile Primary School Omiali is no exception. The slow pupils, together with those who need special attentions, are put in the C arms of the classes, followed by the average or a little bit more brilliant pupils, in the B arms, while the most brilliant and exceptionally gifted pupils are put in the A arms. Primary 6 is the final class in the school before the pupils go for common entrance examinations into secondary schools. Primary 6A of the school is therefore the most brilliant arm in the school. 5 educational inspectors from the Oyo State Ministry of Education were in Akingbile Primary School, paying a surprise visit. Mr. Bello, the labor teacher, patrolling the corridors of the school buildings, noticed the incoming visitors. The following dialogue took place between Mr. Bello and the leader of the delegation, the chief inspector. "Good morning, sir. My name is Mr. Biodun Bello, the labor teacher." "Good morning, Bello. I am Dr. Rilwan Oloyede, Deputy Director, Inspections, in the ministry. But you can call me CI, that's what everyone calls me." "CI, sir?" "Yes, Chief Inspector." "Oh, okay, sir." Mr. Bello subsequently felt relaxed and heartily greeted the other inspectors in the entourage. Mr. Bello then took the inspectors to the office of the headmistress. The headmistress stood up and approached them. The CI introduced himself and his team. "Welcome, sir. I'm Mrs. Tola Akinbayi, the headmistress of the school. This is a pleasant surprise. You didn't inform us you are coming, sir." "Actually, this is not an inspection visit," said the CI. "This is more like a commendation visit. We want to see for ourselves the school in the rural part of our state that did so well at the final of the state's all-primary schools unique brain competition held in Ibadan last month." "Oh, I see, thank you, sir," the headmistress replied with a smile. "So, can we meet the teachers and thank them for a job well done?" asked the CI. "Of course, sir. You can even meet our brilliant pupils. They will be very happy to meet you." She then directed Mr. Bello to go and call all teachers into the staff room, including those currently teaching. At his meeting with all the teachers, the CI expressed his delight and that of the state's government on the school's brilliant outing at the competition. He then made a surprise announcement: "Though the government has rewarded you, I want to extend that with my own personal donation of a token amount of 500,000 naira to the school, 400,000 to all the teachers and 100,000 to the participating pupils." There was a roaring applause that lasted for over 2 minutes. The headmistress was naturally overjoyed in her response. Smiling, she said, "We are most grateful, sir. We really appreciate you, sir. Many thanks, and God Almighty will continue to bless you richly." She then invited the CI to meet the pupils. Accompanied by all the teachers, she confidently took him and the other inspectors to the most brilliant arm of the school, Primary 6A. She then introduced the CI to them. "Good morning, pupils. This is Dr. Rilwan Oloyed, our boss from Ibadan. He came to see us and express his delight at what we did in Ibadan last month. Can we stand up and appreciate him with a resounding applause, please?" All the pupils and the teachers rose up and clapped ceaselessly. The CI then responded, "Thank you, my children. The government is very proud of you for what you did last month. And I want to promise you that the reward you got for your great performance in Ibadan will be nothing compared to what awaits you when you do as well or even better in the future. Thank you, and God bless all of you." Another round of loud applause then followed. As the CI, the other inspectors, the headmistress and the entire school staff were going towards the exit of the class, Miss Latifat Anjorin, one of the inspectors in the CI's team, faced the pupils and casually threw a question to any of them. "How many local government areas do we have in Oyo State?" There was a pin silence. No response from any of the pupils. The headmistress, who was almost at the door with the CI, but heard the question, was the first to respond. She came back to the center of the class where Miss Anjorin stood and turned to the pupils. Frowning a little bit, she asked them, "Didn't any of you hear her?" She then repeated the question. She asked any of you, "How many local government areas do we have in Oyo State?" Still, no answer from any of the pupils. After some awkward silence, one pupil summoned up courage, stood up and said, 10. The oohs that followed his response from the assemblage were enough to drown a ship. Another pupil stood up and said, 25. The same reaction followed his response. One can see the fury on the headmistress's face. Not to talk of the staff. After a while, Miss Anjorin then asked the pupils, "Any other answer?" Silence. She then told them, "The answer is 33. Smiling awkwardly, the CI beckoned on Miss Anjorin. "That's all right, Latifat, let's go. We are already way behind schedule." They then moved towards the exit. But again, another member of the inspection team, Mr. Brighton Wosu, paused and threw another question to the pupils. "How many states make up Nigeria?" One pupil jumped up and screamed 28. To say the headmistress was taken aback will be the understatement of the year. The CI and the inspectors looked so confused. As for the teachers, there was no hiding place from the shame that is brooding. Another pupil stood up and said, 44. The rage on the face of the headmistress was violent enough to fry a chicken. "Shut up all of you and keep quiet," she screamed. The CL could not hold his disappointment anymore. He came back to the center of the class and squarely faced the headmistress. "Is this not a Kingbal primary school, Omiali?" The headmistress sheepishly answered, "Yes, sir." The CI then posed her another question. "Is your school not the one that came second at the state's all primary schools unique brain competition held in Ibadan last month?" "Yes, it is this school, sir," the headmistress responded. "Is that not 6A pasted on that door?" The CI continued his questioning, pointing to the inscription 6A on the door of the class. "It is, sir," replied the headmistress. "Meaning, these are supposed to be the most brilliant pupils in your school," responded the CI with a tint of anger in his voice. The heads of the headmistress and that of all the teachers dropped, sensing trouble. The CI continued, "It was because of your performance at that competition, coming from a very remote and rural part of the state, that the commissioner sent us here. To assess and appraise, firsthand, how to assist your school in the preparation for the national edition of the All Primary Schools Unique Brain Competition, coming up in the nation's capital, Abuja, in 2 months' time. Our school is being considered for the national contest," asked the headmistress. Yes, the CI replied and continued, but with this kind of performance. I'm afraid, our appraisal report will not be favorable to your school again. I am not impressed at all by your pupils. And to think these are your best pupils. To say the headmistress and her staff, not to talk of the primary 6A pupils, were downcast, would be an understatement. They were completely shattered. The headmistress and her staff knew there would be repercussions if the inspection team went back to Ibadan with such poor impression of their school. Their misery was complete when the CI informed the gathering, "Well, madam, we have to leave now. Thank you for your hospitality. We wish you the best for the future." But as CI approached the exit door, Malam Yakuba Musa, one of the inspectors, calmly asked the headmistress, "Madam, where is the boy who performed brilliantly at that state competition? The younger of your 2 representatives in the final." "I was there. I saw him and I was highly impressed by his performance." Looking at her staff, the headmistress asked, "The younger of our 2 representatives? That must be Tunji Daganjuro Ma. He is a boy in my class Ma," replied Miss Shola Ibitoy, the primary 4A teacher. "He is in primary 4, the headmistress told Malam Musa, making sure the CL also heard, desperate to hold on to any straw that might redeem the messy situation they found themselves in. "Primary 4. What can that one do, when his seniors performed so woefully?" retorted the CI, adding in exasperation, "I'll beg you people, let us go," visibly showing his disappointment. The headmistress and her staff looked very dejected, knowing fully well the implications and consequences of what had just happened. But Malam Musa, who seemed to have the ears and confidence of the CI, came to their rescue and insisted, "Sir, why don't you give them a second chance with this boy? We lose nothing by looking him up." "Except my very precious time, Yakuba," interjected the CL. "Anyway, headmistress, fetch him," he added. "Mr. Bello, go and bring the boy," instructed the headmistress to the labor teacher. Mr. Bello, with a cane in his hand, walked towards primary 4A classroom. Reaching the classroom, he stood by the door, but none of the pupils was aware of his presence, due to the commotion they were engaged in. After a while, Mr. Bello asked in a booming voice, slamming the cane in his hand on the desk, "Where is Tunji?" The entire pupils froze at the sight of Mr. Bello, putting a sudden halt to all the disorder going on. Having got the attention of all the pupils, Mr. Bello repeated his question, deliberately very slowly, "Where is Tunji Daganjuro?" I'm here, sir," replied a tiny, shaking voice from the back of the class. He leaped up from the desk where he and his bosom friend, Bayo, had been playing. He walked awkwardly as if his legs had suddenly turned to plastic to the front of the class where Mr. Bello was. Surprisingly, when Tunji got to Mr. Bello, he smiled at him and asked Tunji in a tender voice nobody knew he ever had, "How are you, Tunji?" "I'm fine, sir," he managed to blurt out, not deceived by the sudden tenderness of Mr. Bello. Any sessions with Mr. Bello, 99% of the times, always end up in trouble with serious punishment or flogging or both. Still in his soft voice, Mr. Bello informed Tunji, "The headmistress said Elle should bring you. She is in primary 6A. Follow me." "What did he do, sir?" asked a tiny voice coming from the middle of the class. "It is Bayo, Tunji's bosom friend, whom he was playing with a moment ago." Tunji also summoned up the courage to also ask, "What did I do, sir?" There was complete surprise on the faces of all the pupils in the class, at Tunji being the one summoned by the headmistress, wondering whether Mr. Bello had not come to pick the wrong person. "When you get there, you will know," he told Tunji as gently as he could. "Just follow me," grabbing him lightly but firmly, by the wrist. Mr. Bello, firmly holding a visibly terrified Tunji, finally reached primary 6A. Tunji surveyed the entire gathering and concluded that he was in serious trouble of the worst kind. What could possibly have warranted the headmistress, all the teaching staff and the strangers in their midst, to demand for his presence, with the labor teacher as the chief undertaker, and in the presence of the primary 6A pupils? I must be here to serve as an example of how not to be an unruly pupil, he reasoned. He wanted to bolt and run away, but the firm grip of Mr. Bella would not let him. Instead, he shouted hysterically, "I didn't do it, sir, honestly, it is not me, ma." The CL gently approached him, but faking a tough stance. "What didn't you do and who did it?" "It is not me, sir. It is a case of mistaken identity, sir." "Oh, interesting. Mistaken identity, you say? Then, let us find out if this is really a case of mistaken identity. What is your name?" "Tunji Daganjuro, sir." "You are in what class?" the CI asked him. "Primary 4A, sir. Auntie Shola is my class teacher. She knows me very well. I am not troublesome, sir," Tunji answered, desperately still looking for a rescuer. "Still acting tough," the CI replied. "Calm down, Tunji. It is not any Auntie Shola that will rescue you here. You alone will have to rescue yourself and perhaps rescue the school." "What did you say, sir?" "Rescue the school?" asked Tunji, now completely scared. This is getting more complicated than he thought. "Yes, rescue the school," continued the CI, "and my people here," pointing to his accompanying inspectors, "will do the questioning." From the team of the inspectors, Malam Yakuba Musa stepped forward. "Hello, Tunji. How are you?" He just nodded because he is still a little bit scared. Malam Musa gently continued. "Relax, Tunji, don't be afraid. Nobody here will harm you. You are not in any trouble. Neither is your school. Just a few questions, then we will be done and be on our way." "Okay, sir," Tunji replied. "Were you one of the 2 boys that represented your school at the state's all primary schools unique brain competition held in Ibadan last month?" Malam Musa asked him. Although he was not expecting such a question, Tunji confirmed that he was. Malam Musa then continued gently, careful not to aggravate the boy's state of apprehension. "I was there at the final, where your school narrowly lost in the final. But I was very much impressed by your own performance in particular." "Thank you, sir," Tunji replied, still not sure where all these were leading to. "Do you mind if I ask you some current affairs questions?" continued Malam Musa. Well, that seemed harmless enough, Tunji thought, even though he was still confused. "No, sir," he replied him. Malam Musa then began the questions. "Who is the governor of Ebony State?" Tunji took a deep breath and answered, "Chief Chukwu Udenta." Malam Musa gave a broad smile and said, "That is very correct. Now, in what year did the merger of Northern and Southern Territories of Nigeria take place?" 1914, Tunji promptly replied. "Brilliant," responded Malam Musa, and then asked, "Who was the first female British Prime Minister?" "Baroness Margaret Thatcher," Tunji responded without any hesitation. "Fantastic," Malam Musa smiled, followed by controlled giggles from the headmistress and her staff. Malam Musa then continued, "Let me now ask you some arithmetic questions. If x plus y equals 18 and 2y is 10, what is x?" Now in his element, Tunji answered, 13, without even blinking. A big round of applause by Malam Musa, the headmistress and the teachers, brought a flinty smile from the chief inspector. "What is the cost of 2 oranges? If 5 oranges and 10 apples cost 225 naira and 2 apples is 40 naira. "The 2 oranges will cost 10 naira, sir," Tunji replied instantly. "That's very correct, Tunji," said Malam Musa. "Finally, what is the traditional title of the ruler of Kano called?" "The Emir of Kano," Tunji responded confidently. "Brilliant, Tunji." Malam Musa responded and then added, "That is my home state, by the way." With complete satisfaction written all over his face, he then informed the CI, "I'm done, sir." "Well done, Tunji." The CI then turned to the other inspectors. "Do any of you have any question for Tunji?" "I do, sir," said Miss Latifat Anjorin. "Tunji, how many local government areas do we have in Oyo State?" she asked him. 33, Tunji replied, almost at the same time as the question was asked. A big round of applause followed his answer. Miss Anjorin then informed the CI. "That will be all from me, sir. Anyone else?" the CI asked his people. "Yes, sir," Mr. Bright Nwosu responded and moved towards Tunji. "What date did the Nigerian civil war against Biafra end?" he asked him. Tunji decided to play a little prank. He feigned a serious face as if he did not know the answer. The CI moved forward, patted him and said, "That is all right, my son, if you don't know the answer. Even me, I am right now juggling the possible correct answer to that question in my head." Tunji permitted himself a mischievous smile and said, "January 15th, 1970. The uproar that followed Tunji's answer was indescribable. With a satisfied smile written all over his face, the CI brought back normalcy to the room. "That is all right, everybody." The CI then faced Tunji. "Now my own question." Everyone looked apprehensive. "Who is the president of Nigeria?" the CI asked him. The whole room busted into uncontrollable laughter. Tunji then played a little drama. He stood up, hands akimbo, chest up and answered, "His Excellency, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR. The entire assemblage applauded for a while. The CI then opened his arms and beckoned on Tunji to come over. Tunji ran into his arms and embraced him tightly. Smiling, the CI asked him, "Do you still insist that it is a case of mistaken identity?" He smiled back and answered, "No, sir." "That is an awesome talent," the CI told the gathering. As they all moved towards the exit, he drew the headmistress to one side, away from the earshot of others. "Yes, of course, your school is firmly back in the reckoning to represent the state at the national level." He then showed a serious mien. "But I am now more interested in Tunji. Something must be done about him. He is obviously beyond primary 4. We may have to transfer him to International Primary School in Ibadan. Even though, that is a decision that can only be taken by the commissioner and the governor." He again paused to gather his thoughts. "However, that will be my recommendation. Don't tell anyone yet. We will communicate government's decision to you shortly. Hopefully, it will be positive." The headmistress could hardly contain herself. Genuflecting and smiling, she kept repeating herself over and over again, like a broken record. "Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate." A smiling CI and his team shortly departed the school. After they left, the headmistress invited Tunji to her office and gave him a brand new school uniform to the delight of his class teacher, Auntie Shola. Tunji and Auntie Shola then returned to Primary 4A and informed the class of what just happened. The whole class, especially Bayo, were extremely joyous at the brilliant performance of Tunji, once again after his Ibadan performance. The next day, Tunji came to the school in his new uniform beaming from ear to ear. The rest of the day then went by as normal. However, the following day was anything but normal.